This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so welcome to tactical session 4 on the Atletico Madrid defense. So we're on slide 39 now. The last one was slide 38, obviously. And we're looking at the adjustments the back line makes. Everybody can see the screen. The adjustments the back line makes in regards to the two strikers, the 9 and the 10, particularly the 10. Deep position will be further away from our goal, and an advanced position will be more advanced towards our goal. So this is a deep position where they have their eye on him, as we talked about in previous tacticals, but they're not marking him. They can still, we're considered it's still just one striker. So our two center backs right here can just simply bracket him, and the right center back can take a more aggressive stance in front of him, so he can try to take away any balls in the air or on the ground with more aggression by going in front of the player. Whereas you'll see in other slides and possibly later if we go over it, where if he's more man marking with no help, he'll stand behind him, he'll stand goal side. But notice he's not goal side here because he has help from the left center back. So this is important when you're. I'm not expecting everyone to master this, but this is the game. Right? These are little adjustments you can make to make yourself and your team better. So, and you'll notice here the left back, he's still leaving a big gap because of the deep positioning, meaning he hasn't made a run yet. They're 10. He hasn't made a run yet, so you'll see that the left back is still leaving a gap. If this player were to come in, you'd see the left back start to slide in and give up the outside. But right now he's still ready in case there's a big switch. Okay. And then the positioning here, we've gone over this. You see the diagonal taken by the outside mid to take away the diagonal lane, which helps out our center backs, right? Because there's no balls on the ground are very difficult here, right? We're giving up the pass down the line, but we're going to immediately pressure and try to not let him turn or intercept, and then double mark with the outside mid. Okay, we'll go over all that. Okay. Next slide. And now you can see the 10. The difference here is the 10 starts to take an advanced position. And we can notice that, as we talked about earlier, because the right center back doesn't have help anymore behind him, or his help is occupied, has another problem, which is the 10 making a run and getting a little more advanced. He'll just flip himself. That's why it's important to check your shoulder even on defense. You get in the habit in soccer of checking your shoulder, scanning. It's going to help you on offense and defense. And as we talked about, now the 10 comes in. So you see that the left back will shift over to help out the left center back. And we're controlling the middle we're giving up the side, right? We're giving up this side of the pitch, but we're doing that for a reason, because there's a more crucial area to cover, right? The area right in front of our goal. We want to control what they call, zone 14 in soccer parlance. It's the most critical zone right in front of the penalty box. I'm right in front of the 18-yard box. So that's okay to give that up. If they switch the ball over, no big deal. We can shift over, but we cannot allow a player to get the ball in here turned. We're going to go over that in detail. This is a very critical area of the pitch for us on offense and for us on defense. Okay, any questions about that, or move on to the next one? Notice this is all the same. I don't want to just talk the whole time. If there's any questions, I'll answer. But other than that, I'll continue to go through them.
I had a question about this positioning. If the winger isn't as deep, isn't upfield, he's deeper, he's closer to where the 3 is in the midfield line. Could that fullback,
number 6 here, the outside mid?
I'm talking about the right side center back and the right fullback. Is there a potential of them bracketing the 9 if the winger, the 11, is further up the pitch, like in the midfield, as opposed to being on the attack?
So if the 11 goes up, if the 11, and they refer to this in the text here that if you read it later, and in other text you'll read about tactics, they call it intelligent positioning. If the 11 drops into here, okay, where my mouse cursor is, who knows what we're supposed to call out to the 11? Let's start with that, right? what are we supposed to call to our outside mid? Anybody?
Tell him to drop.
Tell them to drop because it becomes a 2v1. So now our 11 is now covering their 11 and their 3. So to Josh's point, he does have more freedom now to kind of drop in if you wanted to help out in case there was a especially because of our 11 is going to do what? Drop to cover the 11 and the 3. So we're going to give their guy more space. It would be a good idea for our right back to do exactly what Josh Brand is saying and drop in here a little bit, because it's going to be very difficult for our outside mid to stop a long pass towards our center backs if he's covering 2 players. We can all agree on that, right? Because he has to stay behind the most advanced player. So that's exactly what Josh is suggesting is exactly what he should do. He can just slide in, and then if their 11 drops down again to a more advanced position, leaves his intelligent positioning and goes more advanced, he can slide back over again. And we can put pressure on our 11, our outside mid can put pressure on their left back, which is going to make it harder to make a deep pass anyway. So does that kind of answer that question, Josh? And that was great.
Yeah, because usually what happens in this scenario is the 9 will keep running towards the sideline and try to get behind the fullback. So if the fullback's upfield, it doesn't really help because the center back's kind of like, well, do I follow my man or do I expect the fullback to cover him? As opposed to the fullback bracketing the 9. And if the 9 tries to make that run over to the sideline, the fullback just follows them.
And Josh is the thing Josh brought up. It's definitely in the next in future slides. So Josh is our advanced student here. So, but it's a great point, and they're definitely going to have an answer for that. They pretty much have an answer for practically everything. So we'll go to the next one. So are we good there for now? We can look at another one. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Josh. So now we see that the 10 again now goes into a deep position. Takes me a second to get their lingo here, deep in advance, because sometimes I think it deep is like closer to our goal, but in this case, we're calling it deep is away from our goal. So at that point, you'll see that the 10 kind of leaves. You can see this, right? It's a little blurry, but that's their 10, right? He goes into a deep position, further away from our center backs. Ball is still on the fullback, where it's going to be a lot if we play this defense. You see that now our right center back can bracket the 9 again, because he's the only central striker, advanced striker. Now we can have this big gap again because the 10 is in a deep position. If he does make a run, we can control him with our right center back, who will stay goal side though. Keep in mind, he's going to stay goal side because he's going to be aware, because he scanned and see that, oh, my left center back partner is occupied with the striker. So I have to stay goal side. I can't take a more aggressive position in front of the 10, like we saw here. Notice he's goal side for the same reason, right? When their left center back was covered to 10, now it's the 10 coming down. It doesn't matter, but you notice he goes goal side. Whereas if the 10 was up here, right up here, then the two center backs, one could be in front to intercept any balls and be more aggressive, knowing that this guy's completely free. Okay, does that make sense? And again, these things all tie together. And again, review the slides, study these things, because it's going to make you a better player. And in any system, these are kind of fundamentals. So the next one will show that now the 10 comes down into an advanced position. So we see what happens, exactly what we just talked about, right? The right center back is going to control him. Everybody else maintains, right? Our right back should still, and they'll talk about this later, I'll give you a sneak preview, he needs to be in an open stance where he can see his center backs. Like he doesn't want to be closed off to the field where he can't see what's going on behind him. Because as Josh alluded to, if someone makes a run into this gap, the left center back is going to help there, and he's going to leave the winger because the more dangerous player will be the gap runner. So what Josh brought up is a very important point. It's the weakness of this defense is the gap left between the right, the center backs and the outside backs. So we have to be aware of it, and it can be mitigated. But we have to be aware of every defense has a weakness. We need to be aware of our defensive weakness so that we're ready to plug that hole. That's what she said. All right. So any questions on that one?
No.
Okay. Pretty, it's almost like a review of something we did before. Okay. So now we're almost done with the back line. And then it's gonna go back again to the front line, which is good because that's the most important thing for us right now. Going into our friendly, we really need to solidify the front defense. Okay, so here they're talking about this is the open body stance. So they're literally saying you need to have an open body stance in case this 10 makes a run, right? And then we're gonna do what Josh said, which is if he does this, we would slide over and help and just give up. We'll slide over and help, and then I'll show you the next slide. When we slide over and help, we can actually, at what point can our right back leave and go to their 11, their winger? You'll see it's going to have to do with when he finally gets over to help. Because you would think that both our right back and our left center back are both going to help with the 10 making a run. That's what you're going to see. But if he's in the deep positioning, deep positioning far away from us, we just bracket and we play aggressive on their outside mid. We leave the space because no one's close enough to exploit it yet. But we have open body shapes and we're scanning, so we're ready to close it, to mitigate our weakness. And you'll see now the 10 makes the run, and because our this right back had an open body stance and was aware of the 10, along with their left back and their winger. When that guy made the run and the ball's about to be played, he can come in and intercept the ball. And if our outside mid is taking away the inside diagonal, the pass has to come closer to our right back. So all these things tie together, which allows the pass is going to come more outside towards the sideline instead of in here, where it'd be a little more difficult to control for our right back to get to. All these movements matter when you're playing a defense. Okay, and then you can see that the right center back is also going to come in and collapse, and we're going to double team them. Okay. What's happening here is you'll see that he's going to take over the marking. Okay. And that's going to allow us to now, if the ball is played, it's going to free up our right back, which we'll see. As you can see here, because our right center back took over the marking of the 10 that made the run into the gap, and now it has a cascading effect. So we say, okay, that guy's marked, and look at our left back coming in to provide an extra man for security. And now our right back can be secure that, okay, because he was scanning and he was aware. He said, okay, my right center back is goal side of the 10. I can now take a more aggressive approach to the outside mid if a pass comes. And we can then, again, apply, as we're calling it, a trap, double mark, right? We can double mark him and everything's closed off. Okay. Now, they're going to switch gears here, and they're going to show you how the opposing offense can exploit the area that we're protecting. If anybody's wondering why are we protecting this area? Most of you probably aren't wondering, but some might be wondering, like, why Why is this area so important? It's pretty obvious. If it's not obvious, it will be in a second. This is where you're close enough to make easy through balls. So this is the crucial central area. It's the area between our midfield line and our back line. If a player receives a ball in that zone and can turn, they are so close to our back line that they can easily play a through ball that a guy can run onto. Whereas if they're further away, like all the way back here, if you try to play a through ball, if there was no 8 here, you just tried to play a through ball through for the 9 to run to, that would be easily intercepted by our back line. But if the 8 receives in the crucial central area and turns, it's a short pass. It's impossible to close the gap that quickly. So we want to, and this is a goal of our offense. When we go into the offense, the tacticals for that, we're going to talk about, we want to get the ball turned in that hole. Okay. We call it the hole. And then anybody who's been to our practices, especially lately, we are very focused on getting half turned after breaking the first line of pressure and getting half turned so that we can play and advance the ball. So I hope that makes sense, right? You see how easy it is. And we know how we would stop this. We went over this in the other tacticals. These two players would be closer together and drop, and they would intercept. And if the 8 did receive, they should be close enough where they can apply instantaneous marking, which we work on in practice as well. We have sessions where we do that. We work on if they do break our line, we immediately pressure them to try to disrupt them getting turned and making a pass. Okay. So I hope that helps. This is why we're stopping that area. Anything you learn here defensively will help you offensively. I'm not going to read all this. So this is something you'd go back and read when you're reviewing. It talks about us. It's going to talk about what the things that are going to be in the slides next, which is being Atletico believes in being tight between, all the lines should only have about 12 yards away from each other, the back line, the midfield line, and the front line, so that you can squeeze, as some people call it, trap. You can double mark, as I call it, right? If you're close enough. If you have too big of a space, you're 20 yards apart between your back line and your midfield line. I mean, if a guy receives 10 in the middle of that, you're never getting to him. He's going to easily be able to turn. So they believe in horizontal and vertical compactness. So, and we'll see it. I'd rather just show you the pictures. I think it's easier with soccer to see pictures. So this should be a flashback to the beginning of these tacticals of their center back side of the ball. We spend a lot of time in practice working on this. So this should look very familiar. And it's in the earlier tacticals too. Here is our movement of the 9 and 10, right? In this case, that's Griezmann right there. He's 7, but he's a 9-10 for Atletico. So you can see as the ball goes to their right center back, you can see Griezmann stepping up at a diagonal like we do in practice, right? And you can see that it is possible to play this ball through, but look at how narrow that's going to be. And the reason they show the light there is obviously the gap is bigger, but they're showing when the ball is played, obviously you guys are going to have a chance to collapse. So there's a slight window there where the ball, we talked about this before, we talked about this a lot of practice, where we can tease them and make them and give them just enough hope that there's an opening, and let them try to play the perfect pass. And if they play the perfect pass, well, then we hammer the guy that receives here, where my cursor is, but we give them hope. And then we try to, and if they don't play a perfect pass, well, then we intercept and we counter right away. Okay. So I hope that's clear. This is the side to side. Okay. For you public school kids. All right. Or horizontal. All right. Horizontal compactness. Sideline to sideline compactness. And notice the vertical compactness, or up and down, for you public school kids, they're trying to keep about 12 yards of distance, so that if even this central midfielder, their 8 received, we do this in practice too, where our 9 does what? first of all, our functional 8, we call him, prevents the turn, and then our 9 crushes him, right? Double marks, because he's close enough. If there's 20-yard gap, can't get there. Okay. Any questions on this part right here, or does this look very familiar?
I think the only issue we experienced in the last friendly with this is you need to have all 4, the 6, 8, 9, 10 in constant communication to get the reset done properly, where you're in the initial square and then waiting for the transition to one side of the field to know who presses. Otherwise, like once they are in that initial press, it's easy to know who moves over, but then if they reset, if the defense doesn't reset, then it's easy for them to exploit the opposite side of the field because they're not in comms that person needs to press now after resetting.
And what Josh brought up is the bane of my existence, which is guys that don't go to tactical and don't go to training. And eventually, at our club, for me, I believe that'll work itself out over time. As we get more advanced tactically, it's going to be difficult for even talented players to be better than players who may not be as talented as they are, because they're just going to completely hose this up. And they're going to have to do their homework to catch back up again. So, yeah, and that's what the issue we had at the friendly, and we're probably going to have again at the next friendly. And that's why I scheduled all these friendlies, to kind of give everybody practice to run this. And some people pick up concepts quicker. I mean, I've been a teacher for a long time. Some people pick up concepts faster than others. It takes some people longer to learn concepts. So yeah, we definitely need to. That's the transition to defense. We need to be better at that in general, and then particularly to transition into this defense. So here is when the ball goes to the side, which we haven't. I shouldn't say we haven't worked on it. We haven't done it with like everybody on the pitch, because it's like wintertime and I have less people at the sessions. We are able to work on the sideline defense in a positional rondo. So this will be familiar. This is when we usually have a neutral here, right? And they pass the ball out to the fullback, and we press him on a diagonal, right? And then that takes place. The other neutral will be like right here. We usually simulate that by having the opposite side come in and cover him. But in a real game sense, you'd have the ball's played over, our outside mid takes a diagonal, gives up the sideline, and gives up a narrow pass through. And notice, though, a few things. We know this part where he comes up at a diagonal. This player kinks in, and we do that at practice too. We say the other guy has to slide in to cover the middle. Everybody's shifting over. So even this is technically the other guy in the positional rondo, but notice his movement is identical to the other midfielders. These are the 4 midfielders. Okay, this is the 9 and 10. But whoever was the friendly heard me saying, and in practice, we work on this. Once the ball passes you, you come in and you help. Our 9 and 10 do not stay up there like they're Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, they drop in and help. And notice what this does. If our 9 and 10, when the ball goes to the sideline, to their fullback, which we're going to allow that. If we squeeze in here, look at how narrow that is. If he does play into the central midfielder, we're going to be able to, and you're going to see this in the next slide, we're going to be able to double mark that. The ball somehow got here, we'll be able to double mark that. Okay. Therefore, we'll drop back a little, and then we're allowing that. No worries. Go ahead, play it back to him, and then we'll just, as Josh is calling it, we'll reset, which we have to work on. And we'll be having probably some turf practices soon and outdoor practices with more players. We'll be able to work on that. So here is exactly what we were talking about. If they do, they're going to show you. Actually, first, I'm sorry. They're showing you the reason why we keep a limited amount of space vertically, right? So they're showing why we keep limited space as well, like horizontally side to side. Okay. But you're going to show that if they're going to double mark this guy, if he does receive in the crucial central area. So what happens is our 9 presses like we normally do, right? This positioning is okay right here because they could double mark, right? But our functional 8 allows their 8. We were covering their 6. So this is actually exactly what UGH did to us, and we didn't answer them with it. We didn't answer them what we're supposed to do. So because white's 6 is covered, right? Their 8 drops in, and look at our functional 8 or red's functional 8. What did they do? Did they stop them from turning, or did they allow them to turn? They allow him to turn, right? Once he gets turned, he can then, it's very easy for him to break the next line, okay? Because he's so close. He can play into their 9, and then if we're not quick to mark that, and even if we are, it's very dangerous because even if we step, we're opening up space behind. So it's just not a good situation to be in, and all because our, as we call it, our functional 8. Okay, this is our functional 6, right? Covering the area in front of our center backs. Our functional 8 did not do his job, so he got turned, dribbled, sent a through ball. Okay, and then you can see what happens after that. Their 9 can just triangulate our center back by dribble, try to draw him in, play the ball through. Their winger moves to it. So, but I hope you understand where did the initial breakdown happen? Right there, right? That's where the initial breakdown happened at. Okay. Now let's look at how we're supposed to defend that. So now here's the guy that made the mistake earlier, right? Gabby. So you can see him in this. Here you see he's what a lot of midfields do is they kind of have this little bowl shape. You can see that because they're functional 8, their 8 drops in closer to the ball. Gabby has to do what? We teach this at practice all the time, right? He's got to step. If that's ball side, we step, right? So we practice this literally every day, right? So soon this will not be a problem for us. We're gonna find a 6 and an 8 that gets the job done, right? We're training it like every day at practice. So you can see now if Gabby does that, he's close enough now to prevent a turn, right? And notice everyone else is still doing their job, right? The 6 is here just in case he gets it. The 6 can help him double mark too, the outside mid, right? You can see that the functional 10 on Atleti is dropped in, covering their 6, right? This is our functional 6. He's there in case they try to chip a ball in front of our center backs. He can help out, right? He's ready for the switch, so it's pretty simple. And now you can see here's them in action, actually stopping it. The ball is attempted to be played to their functional 8, and we've done this to practice over and over, right? What do? Boom, we hit them with our 8, and we double mark with our functional 9, right? And then you can see that our functional 10 and our functional 6 are right there. Okay, our 6 holds its ground, and our functional 10 drops. Pretty simple, right? We've done this. I mean, you guys have all done this at practice, okay? So you can, if you've seen this done in practice, you know that we're going to be able to do this in a game. And even to Josh's point, where yes, it's confusing now, but Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take a while. It takes a while to build a proper team, but we're getting there. For the old saying in sports is you have to do it in practice many, many times before it starts showing up consistently in games. So, and then you can see also here's an attempt where, he sees that the functional 8 is covered. He wants to the center back wants to thread that needle. Because remember, we're giving a little narrow passing lane. And what does our functional 6 do? Steps on his back, right? That's what he's there for, right? And then our functional 10 does what? Lays the clamp, right? We double mark. We're good to go, right? No worries, okay? We're not going to allow balls. I mean, this isn't even This isn't even the crucial central area. It's actually here, right? We don't even want the ball getting into breaking our first line, which is our 9 and 10 line. We're trying to stop that. We don't want their 6 to ever receive the ball turned. We don't want their 8 to receive the ball turned. The 2 players that are in the middle of the pitch for them, that usually for most teams are the guys that kind of control the game for a team. We're not going to let them turn. That's a fundamental principle of our defense, is to stop their 6 and 8 from getting the ball turning and playing to their 9 and 10. It's a fundamental principle of our defense. Whoever was at the practice, who was it? Mayor, who's was going to play for us this year, but we sent him over to Real Central, so he was at practice, and we had him playing the 6 at practice, and he said, is the point of this that I'm not supposed to get the ball, because he just wasn't getting the ball? And we're like, yeah, we're just not going to let you get the ball in the middle of the pitch. That's the whole point of this defense. And I told him, get used to it, because when we play you, we're not going to let you get the ball either. So so does that make sense? Or any questions on that? Or does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. So now we're looking it's just he's not in a position to receive. There's no passing lane. So what they're saying is, if there's no passing lane, what they're trying to tell you is that Gabby here, the 8, and you guys know this, I keep bringing up practice, but the ones that have been practice know that, yeah, you don't just step up mindlessly. Like, hold your ball side. You don't just run right up the ass at a 9. Like, if you see that he's here, just hold back. If he comes across into an area where he can just receive, then you step up. That's all they're showing you there. And that's common sense, right? Does that make sense with what they're showing there? Not in a position to receive, because if again, if we're trusting that our 9 is doing their job, right, that diagonal is taken away, correct? So we're not worried about it. We have to understand what defense we're playing, what our teammates are taking away, so we don't duplicate the effort, right? If Gabby were to come in and step on him here, what's he leaving open? If he comes over, look, and he steps here, he's leaving a big gap. And then our outside mid has to slide over, which is leaving what? Too much space. So what they're saying is, hold your positioning, because we trusted our teammate. This is why the Cruyff quote, if you ever heard it, where he said, like, part of tactics is trust. He said, like, insight and a few other things. He said part of it's trust. You have to trust your teammate, and you have to know what your teammate is doing. So we know that our system that we're playing, we take away that diagonal. So I do not have to step on him. If you're ignorant of that, you don't know that we're taking away the diagonal, then you would step here, create a gap, boom, we get slashed. And this is why you have to know the tactics. There will be people who are shocked that they will be on the bench at some point, because they'll be like, I'm better than that guy. And my answer will be, you're not better than that guy now. Not anymore. Not for this team. It's possible that, yeah, if you run another team that doesn't do tactics and just kind of vibes it out there, yeah, and yeah, you would be better. But on this team, we're gonna be serious. We're serious about our tactics. Okay, so let's move. Any questions on that, or does that make sense? That makes sense, right? Okay. So now we're looking at where, if we're getting close to where we talk about the sweep, which we talked about, which we definitely did in earlier tacticals, when they drop 3 central midfielders, but he's not quite there yet. He's not. The sweep would be if he's in front of the goalie, is the best way I can describe this for you guys to recognize. Notice where the 2 center backs are. They're offset to the side of the goalie. So now it's just 2 center backs, right? It's 3. You almost never have 3 center backs where it's like 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So it's always like in front of the goalie. You've heard me refer to it in practice as duplicating the effort of the goalie. That's why I don't like it. Because if you're standing in front of our goal, if you're standing in front of your own goalie and your goalie has feet, then you're duplicating the effort if unnecessarily. There's a time and a place for it, but that's when they're pressing with two players, and we don't press with two. So, and most teams don't press with two. So what I'm getting at here is the 6 is dropping in. When they do that on the sideline, we call it intelligent positioning. He's dropping in. So now it's going to be more difficult for our 6 and 8 to cover him. So what they're getting at here is as he comes closer to the ball, closer to our 9 and 10, he becomes the responsibility of the 9 and 10. Does that make sense? Because if our 6 and 8 stepped up that high together, they'd be too close to our 9 and 10. Atletico believes in being compact vertically, but not that compact, because you would leave a gap. Does that make sense? So as he pushes up, over halfway, he becomes the responsibility of the 9 and 10. Okay, you can see if a ball is played to the 6 there. This is why at practice we get you guys in the habit that the 9 and 10 turn after a ball is tried to play, after the opposition tries to play a ball through the 9 and 10 or successfully plays one through. 9 and 10 play defense. They are the first defenders, and to a certain extent, the most important defenders on a team. Too many teams neglect the defense of the 9 and 10. And I can tell you, I have countless players that say they're strikers, and they have no goddamn idea how to defend. No one showed them how to defend. And as you move up levels, the 9 and 10 are spending most of the time defending. Like, watch any game. Like 9 and 10 are spending most of the time doing what? Chasing around center backs, cutting off angles. Like, that's just the game. So they have to be intelligent. All right. Next. So does that make sense that we would collapse there? All right. And we know why we don't want our 6 and 8 to come too high. All right. Any questions on that, or does that make sense? Okay. So we've seen this movement. The ball gets played from the center back over, right? We've seen all this, right? Our outside mid would step to their right back, right? And everybody else, okay, comes to help out, including our 9 and 10. Including our 9 and 10. Okay. There was in the last game, you saw Condi intercept the ball because they broke our line, but he came down amongst others, and Condi got the glory, but other players were coming down, cutting off lanes by coming down, and we were able to stave off their counterattack. That could have stopped potentially a goal right there. That's how you win games. Okay. We got better defensively as the game wore on when our 9 and 10 were dropping down to help out. And this is going to be something that we demand from our players. Everybody defends. Does that make sense what they're doing here? Everybody's dropping in. And you see, it's not just about dropping in, it's understanding what you're doing when you're dropping in. So who is the 9, the functional 9? Who's he helping to cover right here? He's ready if the ball somehow made it in, because our outside mid is not taking away the flat pass, right? The square pass. He's taking away the diagonal. So he's giving up the back pass. He's giving up the square pass. He's taking away the diagonal. He's giving up the straight pass. So if a square pass happened and our 9 stayed here, well, now we can't double mark him. He's too far. If our 9 is lazy and doesn't come back, we're a worse team. So if he just stays up there, look at all the space between now our 8 and our 9, right? If our 9 stayed here, look at all that space. He would not be able to help out our 8 defend their 8. But if after the ball's passed, if he kinks in, comes back, and it understands what his role is at that moment. His role is to help out. If a square pass goes in, they try to go inside, we double mark it. traffic. Does that make sense? Or is there any questions on that? And we will practice the shit out of this. Don't worry. Okay. And you can see, not only did Griezmann, okay, Griezmann's going to intercept this. He started here, right? Like we just showed. The ball was played. Okay. They attempted the square pass. Okay. Griezmann was bracketing their 8 along with our functional 8. And he was close enough, and his momentum was probably taking him. He was able to intercept the ball. He can then intercept that, play right to the 8, who can then play right out to the 6, counterattack, right? If Griezmann stays here, the 8 potentially receives. Okay, maybe one touches over to 6 or gets turned. Either way, instead of having two defenders on their 8, we have 1. Okay. And now they're showing that their 8 will try to move away from he's going to try to move away from Griezmann, okay, because he's sick of not getting the ball. Like, if we do this correctly, you know, during the year, Nas, when he played the 10, was taking out their 6 when we played the Leeds defense. Our weakness was our 8, not taking out their 8. So we haven't experienced an 8 getting frustrated from the opposing team. We've seen the 6 not be able to receive the ball from the opposing team with our EPSL team. Next phase is to stop the 8 from receiving. And the 8 will get frustrated. So what they're showing here is an 8 that's getting annoyed that Griezmann's playing such good defense and tracking back on him that he's going to now go deeper. And they're showing that now Gabby, our functional 8, is going to be a little bit more responsible and have to step up on him. Okay. And those that played Leeds with us and go back and watch the tacticals for Leeds, this has elements of man-to-man in it, right? Like that, this basically becomes Gabby's man, right? Griezmann's just helping out. Griezmann's man is here, but if you think of, remember Leeds, he technically even has a cover shadow coming from his man, right? So there's elements of the other defenses that we ran. Okay. So does that make sense though? That just be aware of him, the 2 players responsible as he kind of ping pongs between them. All right. You want to be aware Griezmann's going to be too far away to help with the double marking right away. So it becomes more of Gabby's responsibility. Just like if any of these players move closer to the 9-10, it becomes more of their responsibility. You got to scan. You got to be aware of where guys are creeping, because really good offensive players are going to find your weakness, where you're leaving the most space, where you're unaware, and they're going to exploit it. And if you guys are smart right now, you're thinking of this in terms of offense too, and saying, "Oh shit, yeah, when they leave too big of a gap, I can exploit that." Right? This is why I got to find space. Right? Look at who's making a mistake on defense and exploit that. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so this Griezmann was, let's say Griezmann attempted a sweep, and he's now, right, let's say for whatever reason he attempted a sweep, maybe, or we were on a counterattack, he made a run, whatever way, he's now out of position, right? And what do we do when one of our players is out of position? Do we run standard Atletico, or do we do something else first before we run the base defense? What do we do?
Everyone drops, right?
We drop until we get our player back. Because if we press with a man down, we're at a disadvantage. So we're better off. It's like in warfare, it's a retreat, right? We're going to retreat, consolidate, so that we're very difficult to penetrate, right? And then we can attack back out from our consolidated position. So we don't want to press like wild men here. Too many times you heard me say this. naive players would be yelling for someone to step to this guy. That would be a mistake, right? To be yelling to Gabby, step, step, right? I'm sure you've all played, heard guys yell at. This would be a mistake if someone made Gabby press here. All right. We're not ready yet. There's just no need for it. Okay. It's a center back dribbling at us. Everybody relax. Right? Like he's not going to go to goal from there. Right. So yeah, if this was, I think Josh brought this up. If this was near our goal line, near our 18, yeah, we have to step to him. This is a midfield. Everybody relax. Right. So we retract, right? And see everybody, our 9's retracting, our functional 10's retracting, our outside mids are retracting. We're going back and in towards each other, right? We're closing the gaps side to side. Okay. Horizontally, side to side. Okay. So we're giving this guy no options. Eventually, Griezmann is going to catch up. Why? Is it faster to run with the ball or without the ball?
Without.
Without. Okay. So give our player a chance to recover, and all will be well. And plus, where the hell is he going? If we're retracting and getting compact, do we even need to step? How the hell is he going to get through us? Right? Unless this guy's Lionel Messi. Like, don't even worry about it. Just contract. What's he going to run right through us? He can't get through. All right. And you can see, because we retract it, the guy is left with Griezmann's bearing down on him and he wants to try for that through ball. We can just intercept it. Okay. Very simple. Okay. Now, once we're compact enough, and we have what we refer to as a defensive triangle, right? Where now any ball through here could be intercepted. When we step, there's going to be a narrow passing lane. Now you can step. We don't step when we're all scattered. We drop back, we get compact. All right, we get coverage on both sides, and then we can step. Does that make sense? Then you yell out step. Okay? And then we can smash them with, he steps, and Griezmann should not be standing here. Raise your hand if you have strikers that just would have fucking stood there the whole time, right? Okay? And just say, that's not my job. I'm not a defender. No? So, okay, so basically, I hope that makes sense. And I think we're going to open it up to questions. I guess even if we'll show the last slide, last part. Even if he passes over to here, because we retracted, right? We can, because Torres retracted, right? If their 6 comes in, he can't even play to the 6 now. So it's forced outside. Would we rather have them have the ball outside or inside?
Outside.
Yeah.
Outside, we have the sideline as our friend. Our philosophy in general is going to be defensively, we want to keep the ball to the outside, okay, and back beyond our 9 and 10 and outside defensively, right? Offensively, we want to penetrate. We want to penetrate in the middle. We want to attack the middle. That's going to be our philosophy offensively. When in doubt, we want, if it's 6 on one hand, half dozen the other, we want to go to the middle. So that'd be your guiding light is defensively, keep it out of the middle. Offensively, in general, go in. I mean, there's going to be nuances within that, but the headline of our offense and defensive game model is that, if that makes sense. Okay. So we'll leave it. We've got like 3 minutes left. Any questions before we hit? I can go a little bit over it just in case. But,
Yeah, I got
wanna go-
a question, Jim. What are you looking to see tomorrow tactically? Like at the very bare minimum, like what is it that you would like to see the team accomplish tactically?
So let me turn it off because this is going to be something people are going to watch that will have nothing to do with that game, and then we can go over that. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. The future people to come here. Okay, so this was part 4 of the Atletico defense.